And so to the question, would you say these institutions make your communities in Canada better or worse? 69% said small businesses make communities better, followed by charities and nonprofits at 59%, large corporations at 41%, and finally government at 31%.
You're listening to Let's Imagine, an Imagine Canada podcast for everyone interested in social issues and the nonprofit sector. I'm your host, Bruce MacDonald. At Imagine Canada, we believe that by leveraging our national vantage point, building cross-sector relationships, and sharing and developing our knowledge base, we can advance social, economic, and environmental justice through our collective action. Join us as we dive deep into conversations that have big implications for the nonprofit and charitable sector here in Canada. A special thank you to our supporting partner, Carter's Professional Corporation. Together, let's imagine a stronger future. This week on Let's Imagine, we're doing things a bit differently. I'm joined by our own Émilie Pontbriand, our Senior Manager of Strategic Communications here at Imagine Canada, who's also our podcast producer. Together, we're going to review and highlight some revealing findings from a series of public opinion polls Imagine Canada conducted in the past year, thanks to the generous support of BMO. Each poll focused on a theme or topic related to the nonprofit and philanthropic sector, with the objective of collecting data that would help us understand where Canadians stand on social issues, as well as their understanding of the work of charities and nonprofits, and perceptions about the nonprofit sector. We've released some of the results from these polls in blog posts, op-ed letters, and media releases, and noticed the interest of the sector in this kind of data. So let's review some of the survey highlights. Émilie, welcome today as a guest.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, Bruce.
So in the first part of the episode, we're going to explore charitable giving and the controversial and sometimes contentious charity rankings. This comes from a survey of 1,500 Canadians that was conducted in November as we were heading into the holiday giving season. It's important to note that the survey was completed before the postal strike started. In terms of giving intentions, their survey found that Canadians intended to be more generous this past holiday season, with 65% say they were planning to donate, a noticeable increase from 49% in 2023. In a year marked by economic stress, an increase in the number of people needing support, what can explain this spike in giving intentions?
Yeah, this is interesting because in that survey, we also probed the sentiment of Canadians and their level of optimism, satisfaction with their personal relationships, and people in their inner circle, but also their sentiment related to the state of our country and the world. And we found that there's clearly a strong feeling present that society is not on the right track. I think this is even more true now than it was when the survey was conducted in the fall, but that sentiment was already there. However, it's not all bleak. Younger age cohorts are more optimistic, as are those who had planned to give this holiday season. Optimism appears to reflect a personal perspective rather than societal perspective, and it seems that for many Canadians, it sparked generosity. And the survey showed that not only were more Canadians planning to donate, but they were also planning on giving more. The average amount of intended charitable giving this past season was $118, and that was up from $100 in 2023 when we asked Canadians the same question in a survey conducted in December 2023. Now, we don't know yet the impact of the strike on donations for 2024. We do know that many organizations were impacted by it, but hopefully organizations had the chance to recoup some of the losses thanks to the tax receipt extension, which allowed donors to claim gifts made before February 28th, 2025 on their 2024 tax return. It would be interesting to get some data on giving for 2024 and, of course, probe Canadians again on giving intentions for 2025 to be before giving season next year or this year.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see if there is a holdover from year over year and what impact that tax deadline extension had as we head into next year, or I guess you're right, this year's holiday season now. So moving on, related to giving intentions, we wanted to probe Canadians on their level of familiarity with charity rankings. These are publicly available lists of organizations ranked according to a number of metrics. these lists or rankings have always been controversial in our sector, as comparing organizations of various sizes and missions is difficult. We've heard from many organizations over the years distressed at their ranking on these lists and worried about the impact on their donors. And so with this poll question, we were looking to gain insight into whether people knew about these lists or rankings and if they impacted their decisions when it came to choosing a charity to support. The results from the poll show that fewer than 1 in 5 Canadians claim to be aware of any type of charity rankings that are publicly available, while 18% said they were unsure. Interestingly, among those who said they were familiar with these ratings, 30% belong to Gen Z, being 27 years old or younger, 15% for both millennials and Gen X, 9% for boomers, and 17% for older generations. So from your perspective, what do the results tell us about the influence of these lists on donors?
Given low awareness of these rankings or lists, few claim these impact their giving decision. But when there's an impact, it's more about organizations that rank high rather than those that rank low, so more positive than negative in a way. Very few, even among those familiar with the rankings, say that they're least likely to support a low-ranking organization. Among those who are familiar with the charity rankings, 54% said they were more likely to donate to charities that rank high on these lists, and 34% said these lists don't influence their decision to donate to an organization. And only 11% responded that they were least likely to donate to charities that rank low on these lists. To put this in a broader perspective, this number of people corresponds to only 2% of all respondents. But if we look deeper at the 11%, the data shows that younger people seem to be paying more attention to this. 30% said they were familiar with the lists versus only 18% overall. But having said all of that, we understand that charities are concerned about these rankings. And Imagine Canada doesn't support the method of evaluating organizations. But based on the results of this survey, we can say that the overall impact on donations is extremely marginal.
And I think that's a helpful message for many organizations who've been concerned about them. So we're now going to shift gears and explore the results from a survey conducted this past fall that focused on the views and expectations of Canadians related to the responsibility of businesses in supporting healthy and resilient communities. Like nonprofits and the government, businesses are an important part of our country's social ecosystem. And Canadians agree. They believe businesses have social responsibilities. What are some of the most important responsibilities corporations have, according to the poll findings from Canadians?
Supporting their communities tops the list of responsibilities, closely followed by minimizing their impact on the environment and committing to equity, diversity, and inclusion. It's interesting because this data is opposite to what we're seeing from companies and the government in the US. Many are pulling from DEI commitments in environmental issues. Here in Canada, the population seems to deeply care about these issues. Another interesting data point, donating to charities and nonprofits and partnering with community organizations come 4th and 5th, respectively. Respondents said that they believe that businesses have a positive impact on communities. And so to the question, would you say these institutions make your communities in Canada better or worse? 69% said small businesses make communities better, followed by charities and nonprofits at 59%, large corporations at 41%, and finally government at 31%.
Yeah, it's interesting. Small business always polls strongly in these kinds of questions. What's even more interesting, the survey results show that not only do Canadians believe that companies have social responsibilities, but they are also more likely to have favorable views of businesses when they see them supporting and building resilient communities. Actions of companies in the social space influence Canadians' decisions to support them. They prefer to choose socially responsible companies with their purchasing decisions, careers, and investments. Why should companies be paying attention to this?
What these results say is that supporting communities is a crucial business imperative for companies. And to the question, do the following statements describe you? 82% said they always or sometimes prefer to support businesses that give back to their communities. 80% said they always or sometimes like it when businesses support nonprofits, charities, or programs in their community. 75% said they always or sometimes prefer to support businesses that have clear social values. These are strong numbers. I also want to highlight another area where supporting communities have an impact on people, recruiting talent. When searching for a new job, 58% of respondents say they always or sometimes consider the potential employer's reputation and whether they support their communities. And so in a tight, competitive job market, socially responsible companies have an edge.
Yeah, so interesting. And while all this sounds great for companies, it's not an entirely rosy picture. The survey also uncovered that trust is not a given. Canadians are hesitant to fully trust companies' commitment to social issues. Although people appreciate companies that do good, they are not sold that their intentions are pure. There are some wildly held beliefs that businesses do good to look good. 63% of respondents saying that for the most part, businesses give back to their communities because it makes them look good. What are your reflections on these results?
The survey shows that companies have work to do to convince Canadians that their actions are genuine and truly reflect their values. One tool companies have in their toolbox to show their commitments to corporate social responsibility are certifications, which can help build authentic trust in businesses. And so we were curious to know whether Canadians were familiar with corporate social responsibility certifications, such as Imagine Canada's PRISM certification that recognizes companies that give back 1% of their pre-tax profits in support of communities. And so we surveyed Canadians on that topic. And what we found is that those who say corporate social responsibility certifications are a good idea are more likely to say companies give back to do good and not to look good. And so CSR certifications are definitely a powerful tool to help companies build trust with Canadians.
And speaking of trust, every survey we did last year included a question about trust. When we probed Canadians about their level of trust in our sector in April of last year, 7 in 10 said that they trust charities generally. This proportion was even higher among Quebec residents, who at 74% showed the highest level of trust in the charitable and nonprofit sector. Those from high-income households, a group that annually donates more to charities, also showed a higher level of trust. What did other survey results tell us about trust?
In our most recent survey, we were interested in probing Canadians on the sector they trust the most to deal with some of the most pressing issues facing Canada today. And since we had asked that question in a poll in 2023 as well, we were able to compare the year-over-year change by sector. And what we found is that 82% of respondents said they trust the charitable and nonprofit sector, and that was up from 79% in 2023. Trust in the sector is consistent across Canada in all regions. It's highest in Atlantic provinces with 89% and lowest in the prairies with 79%. The trust in government, however, dipped from 59% in 2023 to 88% in 2024, while a trust in corporate sector remained stable at 51% versus 50% in 2023, so very similar. And for the first time, we also specifically included the small business sector, and 87% of respondents said that they trust that sector.
So, Émilie, as we're concluding, from your perspective, what are the most surprising or unexpected findings from all the polls that we conducted over the past year?
I think the most surprising data from the surveys are those related to salaries and admin costs. We explored this topic in the survey we conducted last spring. And everyone who works in the sector, we know that the media can be quite fixated on negative stories about charities, often focused on admin costs, overhead, and salaries. But the results of the survey gave a more nuanced perspective. They showed that most Canadians believe that those who work in the sector should be paid in accordance with their roles and responsibilities, and the ratio was 4 times higher than those who disagreed. almost half believed salaries for nonprofit workers should be on par with similar-sized organizations in other sectors. And that was more than twice the proportion who those disagreed. Canadians also believe that nonprofits and charities need to fund specific aspects of their operations and pay for fundraising activities, 78%, technology at 77%, recruitment of volunteers, 73%, program staff salaries, 70%, fundraising staff salaries, 69%, and other promotional activities, 70% as well. And these results climb even higher for respondents who had indicated that they view the services from charities as essential or had higher trust in the nonprofit sector. But there's still work to do because if Canadians understand that organizations have to allocate budget to pay their staff, they are less supportive when it comes to funding CEO salaries or directors. Only 45% said the supported organizations allocating budget for CEO salary and only 55% for directors. So that for us, it shows that the case for leadership costs is not fully entrenched or understood among many Canadians. And finally, overhead. Only 1 in 3 say they generally understand the actual overhead costs at charities they have supported, and 70% say they have no idea. They don't know what overhead or the portion of overhead that the charity they support spend on. And so overhead doesn't seem to be as important for Canadians as we assumed, but perhaps it's more of a concern for certain groups, such as funders. These findings suggest that there's an opportunity to dig deeper, rephrase the message to disrupt the long-held narrative about the sector that is overly fixated on costs.
And I think that's a great way to wrap up. So, Émilie, thanks for being willing to step from behind the scenes to in front of the mic. For our listeners, you can learn more about these surveys and dive deeper into the results. Just simply visit our Imagine Canada 360 blog to read summary posts about the polls. And again, many thanks to BMO for their ongoing support of this project. Thanks for listening to the Let's Imagine podcast. For full show notes and to subscribe to our newsletter so you never miss an episode, please visit our website, www.imaginecanada.ca. Also, if you really like this episode, we invite you to leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to this podcast, as this helps other people discover us and engage in these conversations. And again, thanks to our sponsor, Carter's Professional Corporation, for supporting our podcast.